Welcome to another episode of the Practice on Fire podcast. The guest today is Dr. Nathan Geel. Nate is a good friend of mine, fellow Canadian, a guy that I've come to admire as one of the experts in the world of marketing. So, Nate, say hi and tell us who you are and what you're doing here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nate, and I am a dentist like Mike. I live and practice in Winnipeg, Canada. At one time, I had as many as 5 practices, and I've since kind of downsized, and now I've just got 2. But I find it's plenty to keep me busy between that and my other interests, which I'm sure we're going to get into here pretty shortly.
Right. So, Nate, to start off, why didn't you give us a 30-second summary? What are you an expert at? What's your expertise? What are you the best in the world at?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I got to say that I've gotten really, really good at listening and listening to my patients in particular in order to uncover what it is that they really, really want. And for some people, it's a really big solution. For others, it's not. But I found that developing those, active listening skills and developing the ability to kind of dig in and uncover the emotional and psychological underpinnings of what it is that people want. That's something where I've put a lot of focus over the past few years, and I think I've gotten pretty good at it. When we don't listen, what I find is we make recommendations that are based on reason and logic, yet people buy and commit to treatment based on emotion.
Right. And this is something that, again, over the years, I've come to learn about you and really admire is really your superpower. And this is not even an exaggeration. Your superpower is connecting with your patients. It's unbelievable. And your wife, BT, makes the joke that your staff counts how many times patients cry when they're in your chair. And I mean, they're not crying because they're scared or upset. They're crying because you've uncovered some deep emotion that really cuts to the heart of what their problem is and how you can help them.
Yeah. Well, if they joke about it, that's something they're doing behind my back, but I'm okay with it. You know what? We really have taken a lot of time and made a lot of effort to craft an experience for our patients. So much of the marketing that I'm doing to draw in people who have a really big problem that they need a solution for, our marketing is geared toward that. And when people come in, a lot of times they're bringing years of habits of neglect and years of suffering that can take some time to uncover. And so I've really crafted my consultation around that, trying to spend the time and ask the right questions to get people to open up and really divulge what it is that they want a solution for. So this is different. It's quite distinct from bread and butter dentistry that so many of our colleagues do, and it has to be done, I agree. But this is a very different way of practicing, and it's a different approach to consultations that I've spent a lot of time crafting.
And you keep saying the word crafting over and over again. And to me, that's a bit of a paradox. And I hope that you can help me understand, because when you're talking about, connecting with patients, it all sounds very personal and very emotional. So how do you balance the crafting of a consultation script versus really connecting on a personal level with people? How do you manage those two things and find the right balance?
Well, I do have a script of sorts. What I really have is a process, and I do follow a process, that's for sure, but it's flexible enough that I can be able to meet people where they are. For some people, their emotion is around appearance. For others, it's around being pain-free or getting to a point where they can interact socially on a level that they've always wanted. There are so many different things. But I mean, back to your question, how do we do that and to maintain a really personal level of service? And we do that really by listening. So I'll have a line of questioning that uncovers or helps to uncover or allow people to start digging into their deeper thoughts for themselves. And it is quite possible to do it. I mean, it might be too much for this conversation to go through, but it will be very, very personalized while sticking to a process.
Right, because the average doc out there probably has on their new patient intake form something like, are you happy with your smile? Yes or no?
Yeah.
or rate your smile on a scale of 1 to 10. And so the patient fills that out. They write yes or no, or they rate themselves a 7. And then the average doc is like, okay, well, then what? Like, what am I supposed to do with that information? So
Right.
how do you take it layers deeper than that versus the average doc who just said, that's nice, so would you like me to fix your smile? And obviously doesn't get
Yeah.
any.
Yeah. Well, first of all, many of the people that I'm performing consultations for are first-time people to the office. So this is not a conversation I'm usually having in a recall exam. These are first-time visits to my office, and I know that they've come in response to one of our advertisements. And a question as simple as, say you're coming to see me, hey, Mike, so I know you've come to see me today. I want to be really respectful of your time. But before we can even talk about solutions, I need to understand what it is that you want me to fix. And that's kind of an opening question, and it'll kind of go from there. So I'm entering conversations with the expectation that they have a problem. That's why they're there. And with the expectation that they want me to fix something. And my language there is pretty carefully chosen. And yes, I am specifically saying what you want me to fix, and kind of planting those seeds while also trying to uncover what the issue is.
Right. So I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is there's really two key areas to work on here. One is connecting with people and finding the emotional reasons why they're there. But the second one, and this comes before that, is getting in front of the right audience, right? Making sure that the patient that's coming to see you do have something to fix. You're not dealing with people with no chief complaint, right? So how do you do that? How do you make sure that the patients that come to see you have something to fix and are eager to get that problem fixed?
Yeah, well, this is a multi-step process. It really is. And we've taken some time to kind of map out the entire patient experience, that sales process from cold audience, never heard of me before, all the way through to happy, paying, committed patient. And there are a number of steps in that process, as I'm sure you can imagine. How we prevent the wrong people coming into the office, at least for consultations of this nature, is through our marketing, through our follow-up processes. We have a certain line of questioning that assesses financial preparedness. It assesses their preparedness in terms of like a time frame. Are they looking to begin treatment within 30, 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, or are they just kind of kicking the tires? So those are a couple of ways that we can do that. Usually people who get on my schedule for a consult are people who have expressed interest in commencing with treatment within the next 90 days. And they are people who have confirmed that they're financially prepared to do so. And in most cases, they put a credit card on file to reserve their time with me. So by the time they're there, at the very least, I know I'm talking with someone who's interested and who has a problem that they really want fixed. That tends to ease it. Again, this is not a conversation that I'm having in a hygiene chair for a recall patient. Not typically, anyways.
So again, the conventional thinking is new patient calls, just get them in. Do whatever you can to get them in the office, and then we'll deal with whatever when they get there. What you're saying, I think, is you're not just getting them in. You're putting up some barriers, some screening tools on purpose to make sure that they are highly qualified before you see them. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Yeah, there's no absolute fail-safe, foolproof way to do that I've been able to come up with, but we certainly attempt to do that. And this is, as you said, getting away from the conventional wisdom, which is see everyone, treat everyone, give everyone what they want. And I just find that's a really, really hard, if not impossible thing to do. And it can put a lot of stress on the dentist and on their staff. This is a distinctly different approach to that is complicated in its own way, but can be very rewarding for patients because we're finding real solutions, and at the same time rewarding for me and my team as well to be able to provide those life-changing solutions.
So let's say you have a patient, let's say you have two different patients. One patient says they are looking to start working on a solution in the next 30 days. And the next patient answers that question saying they're ready in the next 6 months. How do you treat those patients differently? Because the 6-month patient, they're still important. You can't ignore them. But how do you handle those patients differently in your office to make sure that you get a qualified audience in front of you?
You know what? There's actually not a whole lot of difference, because we reach out to everyone by phone. And I said that most of the people who get on my schedule for a consult are more or less ready to starting treatment in, say, the next 90 days. But people who are expressing to us that their timeline is more like 6 months, we just delay their consult a little bit longer. That's also my staff has become quite adept at following a system that I've mapped out for them so that those people don't fall through the cracks. So we diary date it for 5 months down the road, and tell them when we're going to call, and then we just make sure that we do call and we get them on the schedule at that time.
And then do you have some contacts in between now and 5 months? You put
Yeah, we do.
Drip email sequence.
Right. Yeah. So we really make an effort to stay front of mind with people, using readily available 2017 software to keep our message and the opportunity that our treatment represents front of mind with prospective patients.
Right. So why don't you explain? I've learned this from you, but what is drip marketing, and how can dentists use that to maximize the efficiency of their contacts with patients?
Yeah, so we're using drip marketing in a number of ways, but with prospective patients, we are using software to remain in touch with people over the long term. So we're nurturing them via electronic means, so sometimes text, but primarily email, and sometimes phone calls as well. But we're nurturing them into relationship with us so that even if they're not prepared today or within 30 days to start treatment, when they do become ready, whether it's changing financial situations or life situations or whatever the case may be, when they are ready, we've been in touch with them so long and so consistently that we're really the provider of choice when the time is right.
Right. So in order to email these people, these are people that you've never met before, right?
Correct.
So in these days where people are really protective of their privacy and personal information, how are you getting them to turn over their name and their email address and their phone numbers to somebody they've never even met?
It's a great question, but it's actually not that difficult. I do agree that people guard their privacy, but when people are giving their information, sharing their personal contact info with us, it's in response to a very specific marketing message, a story that we're sending out to the public. So it doesn't appeal to everyone for sure, but for those people who have the problem that our ad is focused on, it does hit them kind of square between the eyes.
Right.
And for those people, those are the ones who metaphorically kind of raise their hand, and they submit their information so that we can contact them. So they're responding to a story that speaks to them.
Right. And I think you're exactly right, where the conventional wisdom is that people will not share this information with you. And that's probably true if you were to go out and try to get your email address from 1,000 random people. But what you're saying is these are not random people.
Mm-hmm.
These are people who have raised their hand to a very, very specific message. And probably 99,000 other people ignored your message. But these 1,000 people, these 1 out of 100, something about that message it makes them want to give you their email. Right?
That's exactly right.
So this becomes almost another step in your screening, right? If you're willing to give me your email, you're already a higher qualified patient than just somebody off the street who just calls because they're looking for a general dentist.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and especially when the solution that we're proposing to provide is very, very narrow in scope. So whether it's ortho, whether it's a solution for missing or broken teeth, that's really what it is. It's a narrow audience, and we're intentionally trying to narrow that audience. It keeps our marketing costs down, and it's definitely a contrast to the older school method of printing out 20 or 30,000 mailers and sending them to everybody in sight or everybody in a 5 or 10 mile radius. This is quite different than that. Our advertisement may be seen by tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, but only those who are captivated by it, only those people to whom the message really, really means something, those are the ones who we're ultimately in contact with over the long term.
And this is what I think most dentists don't understand, because every dentist you ask will say, yeah, I know I don't have to be everything to everybody, and I want the right kind of patients. But then they turn around and their marketing doesn't say the same thing, right? They're focused on trying to attract all patients. They're afraid of narrowing their focus because they're afraid of reaching fewer people. But what you're doing is intentionally reaching fewer people, right? And that's, I think that's definitely the way to go. Now, when you're doing this type of high value targeted marketing, one of the benefits of online marketing is that you're able to target people, you're able to do A/B testing and very, very narrow targeting of demographic information, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about direct mail? Is there a space? Is there a place for direct mail in this type of marketing, or is it too broad an audience for that?
So yes, there is a place for direct mail in my view, and I do some. I have two practices, and in one, demographically they're different, geographically they're different, and population density wise they're different as well. I do some direct mail, and I still actually do some of the direct mail where we just kind of carpet bomb the area. I do a little bit of that. I try to have a very tailored story, a very tailored message in that, but I do it. Now, there's another way that we can use direct mail though, and where you can be very, very targeted, and that is through the use of purchase lists. So rather than covering an entire area, blanketing an entire area with your ads, you can really, really narrow that focus by purchasing a list of people. Say if it's for dental implants, maybe we look at people, for example, who are 50 plus and of a certain income level, or live on certain streets in certain areas, or who are have a certain position at a certain type of business. We can get all that information from list brokers, and you could send out a very, very targeted direct mail piece that could be very effective. So both are valid.
So I think you're one of the few people that I've ever heard talk about purchasing lists. I mean, all the dentists that I know just send it out to their city, or even in Canada at least, we can go through Canada Post and send to certain postal codes. And I might know that, this area of town is maybe a little better end of town than this end of town. But really, that's about all the demographic information that I normally use. So tell me more about buying lists. Who do you buy these lists from, and how do these people get this information? How accurate is it?
Okay, yes. I mean, you can get them from list brokers. There would be, there are dozens of them. If you Googled, list brokers, you could find lots of options. How accurate are they? I would say they're going to be quite accurate, because these are lists compiled from consumer data. For example, just maybe a silly example, but denture wearers, or people who buy Polydent and denture adhesives and stuff like that. These companies, whether it's Johnson Johnson, otherwise, they know who their customers are, right? They have, people who submit for, to get coupons or reimbursements back, all these type of things. There's lots of ways that these big companies compile data, and they sell the data. So a list broker will have data from consumer lists from all kind of different product categories and industries. And whether you're a dentist or a marketer or wherever you are, you can access these lists through a broker who has them filed and categorized.
So how narrow a focus a list could I get? Like, could I buy a list of females over the age of 65 to 75 who live in my town, who have purchased some sort of denture adhesive in the past 5 years?
Yeah, I think that I haven't looked for that one per se, but I think you'd be able to find that. Yeah.
Wow. And you're right. I mean, this information's out there, and all of us have been on Google or been on Facebook and thought, that is so creepy. How did they know to put that ad there?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of go back in your mind, like, what did I click on that they knew I was thinking about staying at a hotel in Toronto, right? All this information is out there. It's so creepy, and maybe it's about time that we took advantage of this and used it for our own good, and not just been on the taking end of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's right. I mean, data science is a whole field that I know very, very little about, other than it exists, and they are compiling this data about us and everybody else on a really, really active basis.
So what does that cost you for a list? Just give me a ballpark. Are we talking a few hundred, few thousand, 10,000?
Yeah, a few $100 you can get a list. Yeah. You can get a list of every dentist in North America with their practice name, their email, their office phone number, even their home info in some cases. So those are out there. So in kind of in between the hundreds to thousands of dollars, depending on the number of people on the list.
Right. So if you're planning a direct mail piece, and direct mail is expensive, it's at least, I mean, what does postage cost you? $1 a piece, something like that?
No. On something like that, no. I mean, it's the cost of a stamp, but you can do bulk mail for really cheap. Getting into something that is addressed, if you're sending a lot, you still get a premium on it from, whether it's U.S. Post or Canada Post. You should be able to get a discount, but it's expensive when you add in printing costs for sure.
Right. So any direct mail campaign is going to cost you thousands, right?
Yeah.
So it is wise to maybe spend a few $100 up front to narrow that focus and make sure that your denture ad gets in front of denture wearers and your Invisalign ad gets in front of potential Invisalign wearers and not, 90-year-old men.
Well, yeah, exactly that. So that's kind of the foundational things about marketing is the right message to the right people, right? You can have the right message to the wrong people and it's no good, or you can have the wrong message to the right people and that's also no good. But getting the right message to the right people, which really involves crafting a good story and targeting the right people, then you should be able to get some pretty good traction.
So in this process of, refining your message, getting it in front of the right people, qualifying patients, setting up a sales funnel, all this stuff, you and Tim Rao and Eric Jones have been working for probably a couple of years on refining this. Is that fair to say?
No, that's totally fair to say. For myself, this has been kind of a study of mine over the past, say, 3 or 4 years, and over the past 2, I've been working with Dr. Tim Rao and Dr. Eric Jones to make this into more of a system, and we've recently begun taking on clients and are doing the same for them as well.
So, what kind of success are you having in your own practice? What kind of differences is it making for you?
In my own practice, I have, say, over the past 3 years, have changed from a focus on bread and butter, 5-day week dentistry to a very niche-oriented practice where I'm focused on providing solutions for people who are unsatisfied with their smile in terms of the appearance or how they're able to eat. I've made that change over about a 3-year period, reduced my time in the office, and have concurrently completely transformed the way that I look at my practice, how I see it going forward, and for my own enjoyment of my professional practice as well. And yeah, this is really a big part of that is laser focusing on the right marketing, but also kind of making a study of the sales process, as I said, from the first time people hear about me right through till when they're committed and have credit card in hand. Isolating each of those steps and orchestrating that so that this becomes predictable is a really, really big deal. To give some examples, I mean, on a monthly basis, I would get somewhere in the range of around 100, 120 leads who are coming in from marketing sources. And of course, every step of the process as we go, we're going to lose some people. But by and large, I would do somewhere probably between 6 and 12 consults a week. And depending how on top of our game we are, that would lead to a fairly reasonable number of new case starts. And that's what allows me really to have transformed my practice in the way I described.
So you're getting, from this type of marketing, 6 to 12 consults per week. And these are consults. These aren't new patient exams, people coming in with no chief complaint wanting a cleaning. These are consults for people that don't like their smile or whatever you guys are aiming for.
That's exactly correct. So, I mean, of course, we get new patients who are coming into hygiene, and I'm grateful for that. But this is not what I'm focusing on.
So of the 6 to 12 consults, how many of those are starting treatment?
In the long run, most, I can't say all, but most approaching all would be starting some form of treatment. I do encounter people, particularly with implants, I'll see people who are not prepared to invest the multiple tens of thousands to to get fully fixed options on day one, but often we will transition them through a period of, in immediate dentures, and transition them, say over the course of 6 months or a year, into something that's going to be more fixed as they get their, kind of get their mind and their finances in the right place. But most people, for sure, are commencing with treatment.
Right. And I think, would it be fair to say 80, 90% of them are commencing a treatment?
It would, yeah, we're going to be in that range. Now, truth be told, it didn't start out like that at all. This is something where I'm constantly learning and modifying my approach. But a year ago, we would have been, even on niche procedures, we would have been somewhere in the range of 30, 40, 50%. And every time we kind of keep tweaking the system so that I'm able to increase our conversion into an active patient at each step of the way. So
Right.
we get to a point with.
So I was saying that I think right now I'm probably in the 30, 40, 50% range. I'm probably where you were 2 years ago. And I'm kind of trying to follow in your footsteps, where what I see is it's a combination of those two things. The same things is making sure you're in front of the right audience. And then when you're in front of them, making sure you're captivating them, connecting with them on that emotional level to help them realize that you are the answer to their struggles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
So let's say that we have people listening and they're thinking, okay, that sounds about right. I could probably find, let's say I could find $2,500 in my marketing budget for next month to apply to this type of thing. Where should I start? Where's the first $2,500 I should spend?
Where would you start with $2,500? Well, that's a tough question to answer, because it's going to depend on what is your appetite for taking on a project for yourself versus having it done for you. And that's, at $2,500, you're kind of in a tough place, because it's not a huge budget. It may sound like a lot, but I can assure you it's not. I think rather than ask what do I get for $2,500, we should look at how much am I willing to spend to acquire a patient. What is that patient worth to me? If I'm looking at a hygiene patient, a general new patient, maybe they're worth $1,000, $1,500 in a year. That's kind of the typical number for a typical patient. But if you're looking at an ortho patient, for me, that's a $6,000 patient in a year. If I'm looking at an implant patient, it might be 10, 15, it could be 20,000, could be 30,000 or more dollar patients. So we have to look at what are we willing to spend. So what is our predicted cost to acquire a patient, and then look at then how many patients do we want to have. I think that's maybe, it's kind of a twist on it, but it's maybe a better approach. Rather than just saying, I've got this much money, what can I get? So we kind of reverse engineer that process a little bit and say, you know what, my ortho patient, sure, it's worth $6,000. I can spend, $200, for example, to get them. Okay, how many do I want to have a month, or how many consults do I want to have a month to get there? So that would be my starting point, would be to kind of look at it from a different starting point than maybe most do.
Okay. Now you said that it depends on your tolerance to handle this project on your own. So let's say somebody did want to take on this project on their own and build something for themselves. What's the number one roadblock that they're likely going to run into?
If you're looking at doing digital ads, I think you're going to encounter some obstacles on the tech side of things that can really, really be a challenge. Understanding how the ad platforms actually work, whether it's Facebook or Google AdWords, or there are others, but those would be some of the two of the more common ones. They're complicated. That's a course in itself, right? It's a 6-month or year-long course just to to really, really get it, to have a fluency with those ad platforms. So that's going to be one obstacle. But if you can overcome it, I'd say power to you. That'll get you a start. A second thing then you're going to encounter is what makes good ad copy. How do you tell that story in a compelling way, making use of the principles that would tend to influence people into understanding or recognizing the need for their treatment and then wanting to have it. So been able to craft and write a compelling marketing piece or ad would be another obstacle, I think. These things can all be learned, and this is what I've made a study of myself. And so there's no reason that others can't do it. It's just going to require an investment of time, of resources, and like anything else, if you're not genuinely interested, it's going to be really tough to learn. But if you are, I think it can be done.
So what about the dentist out there who's thinking, okay, well, I mean, all these marketing companies, they say that they're experts in digital ads and Facebook ads, and they'll manage your social media and do Google pay-per-click and all that.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Why don't I just go with one of these big companies that claims to be an expert already?
Yeah. If we're asking, what is the difference between what I've been working on with my partners, and what we've done is we've created a company that's called Advanced Practice Builders, where we're focusing on this type of marketing that we call lead generation, and combining that with a well thought out and carefully crafted sales funnel. What is the difference between that and some of the other marketing companies? Well, most of the marketing companies in the dental space are not doing this type of advertising. First of all, most of them are sticking with the postcards and the, hey, look, I do everything, so come see me because nothing you can think of that I can't do. And the evidence of that is most dental websites, if we look at them, they'll have an exhaustive list of services on the top menu. It'll list every service they could think of, and that's the way that typically these companies will work. Now, there are some companies out there that do lead generation marketing, some who focus on digital ads for dentists. The difference there is they're not dentists. And what I've been working on with Tim Rao and Eric Jones, who are also dentists, is a suite of services that provides digital ads, but it goes well beyond that into the opportunity to participate and to get television footage that can be used on live TV or in TV commercials. We have good ad copy available for radio. We have the opportunity to even author a book. And the idea is to really to establish credibility and local authority for each of the doctors who are participating in our program, so that they can be have that preeminent position as the go-to guy in any given local market. That's one of the big differences. The other is that we're dentists and we understand the industry. And I've worked with digital marketers in the past who don't understand the industry, and I've spent half my time just trying to get them to understand what it is they want to say, and they never do, because they don't have the training, they don't have the background, and they don't have the industry insight that the three of us with APB are able to provide.
Right. And the traditional dental marketers would say, oh yeah, well, look at all the consults that we got you. Look at all the phone calls and all the leads you got and all the new patients that came in. And what they don't understand is a consult is not the same as a consult. I mean, there's all kinds of different consults. There's consults for different procedures, but there's also different qualities of the patients coming in. And they don't understand what it takes to get you a consult for a high value treatment that's also highly motivated and highly qualified. I think that's really the secret that I think you guys are unlocking here is getting a steady stream of not just consults, but patients that want high value dentistry and are seeking you out versus you chasing them around. And they're eager, they're ready to go. And that's why you can close 80-90% of these consults. They've already been pre-screened and pre-sold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. That's the key. I agree that with a lot of the even some of the big players in dental marketing, they are they're giving their dental clients a website, and they're giving them a budget for some pay-per-click advertising, and they're focusing. They're giving them a budget for search engine optimization, and they're doing all that stuff so that it looks busy. And then they're tracking their phone calls and telling them, hey, look, we gave you 100 phone calls, but what actually are those phone calls? What do those people want, and what are they looking for? And are we filling up and growing a practice simply to be able to say that we have more patients in hygiene, or are we crafting a message that gets us in front of the right people who really want to have a solution for a problem that is affecting their life, and looking for a solution that has a potential to change their life for the better? And if you're like me and you find that kind of work to be really gratifying and rewarding, then it makes sense to take kind of take a different approach. Yeah, you know what? It's for me, this is a really, really interesting and fascinating journey. I love that we're able to connect with colleagues in all different places across North America, and hopefully sometime around the world. What I find is dentistry is such a solitary profession for so many of our colleagues, right? Which is why I think that things like Practice on Fire are such a success, because it pulls in people, and there's a big element, of camaraderie and of friendships that are formed when you get like-minded people in the same place. It's really, really cool. Similarly, when we get like-minded professionals together who want to practice in a certain way and who can see the difference between the old method of take everybody, make everybody happy. Often that ends up where nobody's happy. The patients are complaining, they resent their $6 copay, and the dentists and their staff aren't happy as a result. When we can kind of flip that switch and transform the way that we look at dental practice and deal with people who want a solution, who are aware of the solution, and are kind of primed and ready to access it and start moving in the right direction, that really has the potential to change the way we feel about practice and the way we feel about going into work every day. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I love what you said there about seeking out colleagues and that sense of community, and especially at Practice on Fire where there's no secrets. You guys are going up on stage and basically laying out your entire past 2 years of work, and like you said before, somebody could very well copy and steal that from you. It would be a heck of a lot of work, but they could. There's no secret. But we're here to share. We're here to help people. If somebody wants to do that, more power to them. Most docs, though, won't go that route, right? They're going to want help. They're going to need some support, and that's what you guys can offer them.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. There are just ample sources for information, and we're trying to bring all that together into one place and share it with people who are interested. If anyone wants to talk more about it, then that's fantastic, and we love those conversations, and we're set up to be able to handle that. So this is a lot of fun to be able to share this kind of new approach with colleagues all over the place.
And that's what I love about what you guys have done is you guys have gone out and found the very, very best in the world at Facebook ads, the very, very best in the world at lead generation, the very best copywriters, the very best landing page writers, and put that all into one package. And we're not talking about the very best in the dental field. We're talking about the very, very best in the world, period, at these types of things. That's like putting together the dream team of marketing.
Well, that's definitely what we tried to do. I mean, our team, beyond me, Tim, and Eric, consists of people who are not from a dental background. So what Tim, Eric, and I bring is the industry knowledge, but the rest of our team brings the tech knowledge, the understanding of how to build, maintain, and share our strategy so that we can pull in interest, identify interest, and get people to really self-identify, which is kind of a different tactic than has been typically used in dental marketing.
Right, and as dentists, we are small potatoes, right? We're getting excited about 10 Invisalign consults a week. We're talking about marketers that are used to hundreds of millions of dollars in ad spends and revenues. These are big time players in the world of marketing. That's amazing. Where would somebody go? Do you have any books, any websites, any resources you'd recommend if somebody wants to learn more about this type of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So we can have people go take a look at our website, actually, which is at advancedpracticebuilders.com. That would be kind of the first place to start learning a little bit more about us and what it is we do. Also, I'm going to kind of give you a plug here, and I think that if people really want to get a feel for how this works and a feel for the people such as myself, Tim, and Eric Jones, get a feel for who we are and how we operate, they should really come see us at Practice on Fire in San Diego. Not only is it going to be a lot of fun, but as you said, it's going to be kind of a look behind the curtain see exactly how this works, what's happening. And if you want to go do it yourself, that's totally cool. Or if, like many people, you think that you could use some help with it and you want to kind of hit the fast forward button and get this done in 6 months rather than in 6 years, then we'll be there to have that conversation too. So check out our website, advancedpracticebuilders.com, and that'd be really cool to see people and kind of meet in person and talk about more of this over a weekend in San Diego. And that's coming up in March of next year, coming up quick, actually.
Okay, Nate, we've covered a lot of ground. You've introduced a lot of topics that I think are going to be brand new to some people and hopefully eye-opening in terms of how to market and the things that they can do to get even better high-value patients. But there's a couple of problems, and I'm going to take about 3 minutes to identify them and come up with give everybody listening a guaranteed solution. The first problem is the way that our minds work. Not very well, to be honest. A couple days from now, people won't remember your name or my name. And what they do remember about what you said is going to be really blurry and incomplete. 3 days from now, they're only going to remember a few sentences from this whole past hour. And 5 days from now, they're not going to remember hearing this podcast at all. So people move on very, very quickly to other things. And if they do that, then the past hour will have been a complete waste of time for everybody. So that's the first problem. It's things come out and things go in and things come out so easily from our memories. The second problem is we're just giving you information and it's not enough. And that's the failure of even a great interview like this one with you, Nate, where ideas and information are one thing, but without any application, without implementation, they have no value. People need tools and they need help and they need support. And if you don't have a plan to take action on the stuff that Nate just talked about, again, you've wasted the past hour, and that's not okay. We're not here to waste anybody's time. The good news, though, is like Nate said, there are more people out there that think differently, just like Nate and just like me. They ignore best practices. They aren't satisfied with conventional success. And these docs gather just once every year at Practice on Fire. This is where Nate will be hanging out with Tim and Eric and docs just like him. And these are docs that are killing it in all different areas because we're thinking differently. We'll be talking about the information just like you heard today and game-changing stuff that nobody else in the field is talking about because everybody seems to be stuck following the herd and the conventional thinking. As a special thank you, Nate, we've created a special discount code for 37% off the regular registration fee to Practice on Fire. So if you guys just use the code Nate VIP, NATE VIP at the checkout online, you get 37% off. But don't wait, there's only 6 of these codes available. And once they're all used, that's it, they're all gone. So don't forget the code Nate VIP. One more thing, I promised that, we're gonna guarantee that you're gonna reach the next level in your practice. And here's what we mean. This is literally guaranteed because if you don't love our event, all you got to do is let me know and we'll refund every single penny you paid for your registration. And on top of that, we're going to reimburse your travel expenses, your flight and your hotel. So nobody else will give you that guarantee and you've literally got nothing to lose. So go to practiceonfirelive.com to sign up. Use the code NATEVIP for 37% off if you're one of the next 6 people. While you're on the site, you can check out the rest of our speaking lineup. You can check out our plans for helping our friends and neighbors in Puerto Rico still recovering from the hurricane. And you can also check out our super exclusive guest speaker, who is a true American superhero. So check us out, practiceonfirelive.com, and hopefully we'll see you in San Diego. See you in the next episode of Practice on Fire Live, the podcast.